really no way that one person ever, even if we had a lifetime, could really expound on everything that there is. So when we come together for just an hour or 2 hours, there's so much to tell that the person who's speaking is really kind of at a loss as to where to begin, what to say, because my job up here is to try to communicate, really is not to tell you everything about the Bahá'í Faith, because there's no way that I can. It's not to convince you this is the right way, because we don't believe in that. All really my job is to do is to convince to you and to convey to you my love of this faith. Because that's all I can really do. That's all I can really give you. All I can give you is just my understanding, and that's so small. I can just give you my perspective, and that's so narrow. But hopefully in that there will be something, God willing, something that touches a part of you and makes you say, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll investigate this further, because that's really the purpose of this. The purpose of us coming together is for us as Baha'is to share this with you because we love it. Because this is something that we found that we love, and it's simply out of our love that we want to share it. I am not a clergy member. I have no rank, no station. I have no power. I have no authority. I have nothing. I'm just a regular Baha'i. Just as all of us are regular Baha'is. We don't do this because somebody told us to, other than God. We're not getting paid for this. We don't get pats on the back for this. We don't get applause for this. We do this because we love this. So I guess where I'll start is probably at the most basic level. As Baha'is, we believe in, I would say, 3 central teachings. And the central teaching, the very essence of the Baha'i faith, you've already heard, and you've heard it in abundance tonight, and that's the oneness of mankind. Everything that we do, everything that we believe, everything that we stand for, everything that we live for, supports that principle. It's all about that principle, the oneness of mankind. Because we believe that we are living in a very special age, you see. An age that has been promised from the beginning of our recorded history, really. The beginning of our religious history, anyway. There's always been this promise. There's always been this dream, this hope, that one day we really will be able to solve our differences. Not just in theory, I mean really. We're so far away from it, and we've been living with war for so long that really it's probably very difficult for us to conceive of a world without it. To really imagine a world without hatred, without racism, without some kind of bigotry or prejudice. But wouldn't it be great if we could? Can you even imagine for a moment what the world would be like if we didn't divide ourselves because of the color of our skin, or because of what country we were born in, or because of how much money we have in the bank, or because of what university we went to? We find all of these ways to divide ourselves and dissect ourselves and say, well, I'm in this category and you're in that category, so you have to stay over there and I'm going to stay over here. And what that does is the workshop, I believe very powerfully portrayed, is what that is doing is that is killing all of us. Every single one of us. It doesn't matter whether you're on top or on the bottom. It doesn't matter whether you're in power or you're being oppressed. As long as that division is there, all mankind suffers. All mankind is held back. So that teaching, the oneness of mankind, you've heard a lot about today. But I want to talk about 2 other teachings. And this is the oneness of God and the oneness of religion. Because these 3 things, the oneness of God, the oneness of religion, and the oneness of mankind, are the very core of the Baha'i beliefs. What does it mean that there's one God? Anybody? Anyone? I feel like I'm in a classroom. I should do this for a living. Yes, in the back. This is great. I love this.
There's only one God, and all of the teachers are sent as one God. There's just one God, and there's no like fire God, or water God, or earth God, or whatever. There's only one God.
What do you guys think about that idea? Not everybody believes that, though. That's a problem. We have to come to understand that the Allah that some people pray to is the same Jehovah and the same Bhagwan and the same Om, or the same Dios, or the same Dieu that all of us pray to. It's the same source. It's the same God. It's the same light. Think about that for a second. Why is that so important? Okay, so there's one God. Great. Now hold on a minute. Think about the reality of that. If I love God, and I see that you love God too, and I recognize that it's the same God. Now wait a minute now. That means I have something in common with you. That means we are both lovers of the same light. That means we're both striving after the same thing. Even though I may call myself a Hindu and you may call yourself a Muslim, or you may call yourself a Christian or a Jew or whatever you call yourself, if we recognize that our teachings, our love, our prayers are all going towards the same source, that we're all working towards the same goal, all of a sudden, we have a responsibility here. We're supposed to be working together, probably, maybe. I don't know. Get that? Yeah? Silence, hush falls over the multitude. But the oneness of God is actually a little bit deeper than that. There's more to it than that. It's not just a recognition that there's one source that we all come from. One God means much more than that. The principle of the oneness of God actually is something that was established in religious history thousands of years ago. Everybody know who Abraham is? The whole purpose of Abraham was to come and tell us, hey guys, there's only one God. There's only one God. At the time, I'll paint the scenario, okay? You guys ready? I'm going to take you back in time. Don't mind me. I come from a theater background, so sometimes I'm a little crazy. All right? Back in the time of Abraham, we've got all these different people running around. You know, they're all kind of fending for themselves, killing each other. It's kind of a real savage type thing. And they've got a place of worship. And in this place of worship, they've got all these little idols, all these little statues. And they're all made of stone. And people come and they offer food and they sacrifice their cattle and their livestock, and they pray, and they sit in front of this little tiny wooden statue or stone statue. Please help me, make my crops grow. As if this tiny wooden statue could do that. Well, there's a funny story about what Abraham did. He was born into this culture. And he was born into the most powerful clan or tribe of these people. And so one day he was told to watch the idols. They had one person who was always kind of like a guard. And so what he did was, he sat there and they all brought food and they placed them in front of all the idols. And there was one big one. This one big one was supposed to be like the chief god of the gods. You know, he was like the head honcho. And so what Abraham did was, you know, everybody went to bed and Abraham's just kind of cooling out, waiting for everybody to go to sleep. And then he goes and he eats all the food. Tricky guy. And then he smashes all the small idols, except for the big one. The next morning, oh my God, you can imagine, everybody comes out, oh, the idols are broken. What'd you do, Abraham? How could you let this happen? And he says, hey, I didn't do it. The big God did it. Abraham, can we talk a minute? He's made of stone. You know, they're like, the food's gone, and he's the big guy, he did it. He ate the food, and then they got into a big argument, and he beat up all the little gods. You know, and of course they weren't buying this. So they said, Abraham, the God's made of stone. He couldn't eat the food. He couldn't kill the other idols. He couldn't do anything. Ah, exactly. Then why do you pray to him? If he can't do these small things, what makes you think that he's going to make your crops grow and make you bear children and give you healthy families? He's trying to teach them something. In a very comical way. He showed them their ignorance. But that is the purpose of these messengers of God. They come and they gently, very kindly reveal to us our ignorance, and at the same time they give us wisdom and knowledge in place of it. So this teaching of the oneness of God came to us thousands of years ago. And basically what God was trying to say is, our purpose in this earth, on this life, is to worship only Him. Not to worship anything else. Not to worship the ground, not to worship the sun, not to worship the sky and the fire. All those things are all beautiful. But they all are created by the same source. So what do you think? You think we learned our lesson? No? Yes? Most people generally accept that there's one God. They think theirs is the one God, but, they think there's one God. But I think it's really interesting. Do we worship only this one God? Haven't we just taken those... We don't have little statues anymore. We don't pray to little statues, but boy, do we worship all kinds of other things. Money. Oh, what we'll do for the money. How much, homage do we pay to money? All kinds of materialism, the house, the car, the look. All of the things that we're wasting our time in pursuing. And they're taking us further and further away from what we're really supposed to be. We believe as Baha'is, this one God, this Creator, to be unknowable. In the Bible it says that man was created in the image of God. Does that mean that God's walking around with arms and, plays golf on Sundays or something? No. He's not a man. We don't believe that he's a man. We don't believe that he is a physical being. We believe that he is spiritual. He is powerful. And he's something that we can't ever comprehend, ever. That would be, I'm an artist. That would be like, let me ask you this question. If I make a painting, okay? Beautiful painting. I take all of my knowledge, all of my sense of color, all of the beauty I see and can think of and imagine that's inside of me, and I put it into this painting, and this is my masterpiece. This is my greatest creation. And if you look at this creation, true, you will understand a lot about me, the artist. You will be able to see my eye for perfection. You will be able to see my knowledge of perspective. You'll be able to see my sense of color. But even though all this painting has all that knowledge, can this painting ever be compared to me, its creator? Will this painting ever be able to comprehend me, its creator? Never. Because regardless of how much beauty and knowledge I put into that painting, it's still my creation. I created it out of my knowledge. It could never equal me. Right? So we believe that God, in the same way, He has created us, so we as His creation, we can never know Him. We can't ever, have this equal type of status with Him. Because if we could comprehend God, if we could understand God, then we would be equal to God. Right? So how do we know about God? We believe that God, because He knows this difference between us, what He does is He bridges the gap. What would happen if the sun came to the earth? See ya! Bye. Time's over. Time to check out. Get a little hot. Whew, where's that sunblock? 256. What would happen if the earth went to the sun? Pretty much the same thing. Why? Because we can't handle that kind of power. It's too powerful. It's too great. We weren't created to withstand that kind of intensity. So, God in His wisdom put the sun way the heck out there, and us way the heck over here. But we know about the sun not by coming in direct contact with it. We don't know about the sun like that. We know about the sun because it sends its rays from where it is to where we are. From the rays of the sun, from that which radiates from the sun, we know about its light. We know about its heat. We know about all the different rays, the X-rays and the gamma rays and the, all the cool stuff that science is telling us all about today. Right? We're learning all of that not by contacting the sun, but by this little, almost messenger, if you will, the rays of the sun. We believe it's the very same process. That God in His essence, this unknowable being, does not come to earth and incarnates Himself in physical form. We believe that He does send representatives of Himself. And in the Bahá'í faith, they're called manifestations of God because what they do is they manifest, they reflect all of that light, all of that power, all of that beauty in their deeds, in their lives, everything. Really. Look at the Bible. Read the life of Christ. Look at the Quran. Read the life of Muhammad. Look at the Bhagavad Gita. Read the life of Krishna. Look at the Old Testament. Read the life of Moses. You will find some remarkable qualities and traits in these people. It's really amazing how similar their stories are. it's really amazing how similar their teachings are. It's really amazing how similar their promises are. Could it be? Maybe? I don't know. Is it me? Could it possibly be that maybe they're all talking about the same thing? Concept, eh? Getting a clue. We believe that these manifestations of God. If I had a mirror, see, I love this analogy. If I have a mirror here, perfectly polished mirror, just, pow, this is the greatest mirror in the whole world. And the sun's shining up in the sky. And I take this mirror and I kind of angle it, shine it right in your eye, pow, And I say, and you see the little disk of the sun and all the light's coming, all the heat's coming, you can feel it. And I say, that's the sun. Am I telling you the truth? Yep. Absolutely telling you the truth. But is that the sun? No. Is it really the sun? No. But isn't it the sun? Yeah. Absolutely. Wait a minute, you lost me there. Can you rewind that again, please? Give me some water or something. It's the sun and it's not the sun because this mirror is a perfect reflection. It conveys the light, it conveys the power, it conveys the warmth. And in reality, these manifestations convey the love of this divine Son, this divine Creator. This is why when Christ says the Father and I are one, we say, yes, we believe it. This is why when Christ also says that the Father is greater than I, we go, oh, okay, I can understand. Is he contradicting himself? Is he confused? And, oh, wait. No, he's not. Both statements are accurate. At one time, he's talking about the light that shines from him, and at one time, he's talking about himself as a reflection of that greater power. Well, as Baha'is, we believe that all of the manifestations of God, all of the messengers of God are like this same mirror. They're all on the same level. They all occupy the same station. They all bring to us the same light, the same message. But what they do is they bring it to us at different times in history. If you take a child, say 4-year-old child, bright child, brilliant child, they're getting smarter and smarter, My little brother just amazes me. Makes me mad, really, but, because he's so smart, I feel like a dinosaur. But you take this child, 4-year-old child, could I take this child and stick him into Harvard University and expect him to compete with other people who are older? They're all going, is this a trick question? No, come on, give me a break. Of course you couldn't. You're not going to take this child and stick him in trigonometry and expect him to get it? No, he's not going to get it. Why? Thank you. He doesn't even know 1 + 1 is 2 yet. Right? He's got to learn that first. Once he gets the basic stuff, then, you go, okay, cool, you got your addition thing. Now we're going to trick you and throw you into some subtraction, maybe some division, multiplication. You get the groundwork. You get it solid. And then what do? Then you build upon that. And then maybe you get a little algebra, and then you get a little geometry, and then you get a little more algebra, and then you're going on and on and on. And the next thing you know, you're Albert Einstein, But you don't start off that way. Now, if we as human beings can figure that out with our children, don't you think that God, who created us, can figure that out with us as a people? Probably. I mean, that's my guess. Probably. I don't know. My best guess. So that's exactly what we believe has been happening. That God, throughout the ages, has been guiding mankind progressively. At different ages, He sends us a teacher to give us what we are capable of comprehending at that time. And then once, as a whole people, we understand and grasp and start to live by those teachings. And that's an important part, to live by those teachings. Then we progress. Mankind suddenly jumps up to another level. All of our society and our inventions and sciences and everything begins to grow. But because He only gives us so much teaching, that takes us only so far. And then it's necessary once we reach the end of that, for what? Another teacher to come. Exactly. And another set of teachings. Baha'u'llah uses the seasons as an example of this. He says that when the manifestations of God come, it's like springtime. Everything's beautiful. The grass is growing. The birds are singing. Just, nature is just booming. It's beautiful. Everything's new. Everything's fresh. Everything's alive. The air is clean and crisp. This is the beginning of a brand new day when this manifestation is born unto this earth and begins teaching, begins giving these new teachings to uplift all of mankind. I'm going to go back to Abraham. I'm going to be really brief on this because I want us to understand the historical context of what's been going on. When these teachers of God come, they come for two reasons, and they bring two sets of teachings. They bring a social teaching and they bring a spiritual teaching. And the spiritual teachings never change. They're always the same. Every religion in the world says, be a good person. Tell the truth. Be just. Be kind. If they don't, you need to check that out because that's probably not a religion. I don't know. Maybe it's a club. Politics. I don't know. What is it? But every religion says this. Because these are the spiritual teachings. These are the spiritual principles. And we know that God doesn't change. And so the spiritual law doesn't change either. Our understanding of the spiritual law, however, does change. Because just like that child, that 4-year-old child, as that child grows, his comprehension is going to grow with him. His understanding of the world is going to grow with him. And as his understanding grows, more knowledge is needed to keep up with that understanding. Not just to keep up with it, but to guide it, to pull him forward. And we're the same way. If God just sent us Abraham and just said, okay, this is all you're going to get, we'd be in serious problems right now. Really, we would be. Because, that was a long time ago. And people didn't even know about each other. We didn't even know there was such thing as, China. We were there. The people who Abraham came to, they didn't know that there were even other people. So how could Abraham talk about the oneness of the world? The oneness of humanity? What humanity? What, you mean my cousin Fred? I love that guy. Really? The people back then did not deal with the same things that we now as a world are dealing with. The world has become a very small place. It's not by accident. Think about this. It's not by accident. This is part of the plan. All the inventions that we have now, all the communication, all the travel possibilities. We can be from here in another country in a matter of hours. That never existed before. Sometimes we take that for granted because we grew up with this. It never existed before. There are people alive today who were alive when these things didn't exist. The world was a different place. The fastest you could go was how fast your horse could run. The furthest you could go was how far your probably camel could go, because they go pretty far. But that was people's concept of the world. So Abraham back in his time couldn't talk about the oneness of mankind. No. He wanted to start at the beginning. A very simple principle. How about family unity? Father, you can't kill son for that piece of meat anymore. Because really that's the way it was. It was like a very barbaric, individual, every man for himself type thing. If you and I, you could be my brother, and we would compete for something, and I would kill you. We all know the story from the Bible, how Cain and Abel were brothers, and Cain slew Abel. Hey, that was kind of back then, right? We get the idea. The principle was family unity. And the spiritual principle was the oneness of God. Along comes Moses. Does he negate what Abraham said about family unity? No, he increases it. He says, great, you guys got the family unity thing? Wonderful. Come together now. Bring all the families together as a tribe. Got it? Next level. Christ comes. He says, you guys got the tribe thing down? The 12 tribes of Israel? Great. Wonderful. Let's bring all these tribes together and establish what is a city-state. The feudal system under Christianity, we all know about that, in Europe. Along comes Muhammad. Muhammad says, great, mankind, you got the city-state thing down? Wonderful. Let's get all these tribes together, all these families together, all these city-states together, and let's make what we call now a nation. It was through the teachings of Muhammad that nationhood was established. Many people here in the West don't know that. Many people here in the West really don't know too much about Muhammad. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because it's a big part of our history too. A lot of our alphabet, many of the sciences that we have, our numerals, all these things come from Arabic. Did you know that? Many people don't know that. Many people, especially in this country, because of the way that we see the condition that Islam is in the world today. And it's unfortunate that we see it in its wintertime, when so much corruption is entered into it. And we can look at every religion and say the same thing. We can look at every religion and we're lost, kind of bewildered, because everything that mankind has turned to in the past, every religion, these the televangelists, the preachers, all of these things that we've sought for guidance, everything's falling apart now. Isn't that interesting? All of these things are falling apart. So where are we supposed to go now? What happens then if we've gone from family to tribe to city-state to nation? What do you guys think the next step is? How about the nations coming together as a world? Now let me ask you this question, and I want you to think about this. Isn't that amazingly what we're seeing in the world right now? Isn't that remarkably what every country right now is calling for? World trade, equal distribution of natural resources. This is what's happening. The call for justice, the call for unity, the call for democracy, the call for recognition, but really for justice, is happening all over the world. And this has never happened before. And it will happen, whether we like it or not, because we believe this to be God's plan. This is the plan of God. Our whole purpose in being here is to introduce this message to you and to let you know, hey, you know what? This person by the name of Baha'u'llah came 150 years ago, and he said that he was from God. I don't have to convince you. I don't. It's not my job. It's not our purpose. But you have a responsibility now. Ha, 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 ha. Because I just gave you some information, and now you have to decide what you're going to do with that information. Again, you can try to ignore it. It's your choice. Or you can say, hey, wait a minute, you know what? Maybe I should investigate this. Because you know what? I'll tell you, really, it comes down to basic thing. Either Baha'u'llah is who he says he is, either he is a prophet of God, or he's not. Boom. It's that simple. It's that simple. Either he is or he isn't. And if he is, and you don't check it out, who's going to lose? Him? No. And if he's not, then you wasted a little bit of time, you gained some knowledge, good experience, see you later, yeah, have a nice day. Really. That's what it comes down to. Baha'u'llah says he has brought a principle and introduced a principle called the independent investigation of truth. And what that means is, no longer is it the day when we just follow blindly. No longer is just following tradition acceptable. It's not acceptable anymore. I can't be something because my parents were that, or because my nation is that, or because my friends say I should be that. I have a responsibility. You have a responsibility, every single one of you, to find out what truth is for yourself. And if any of this makes sense to you, if anything that I've said, if any part of what, more importantly, Baha'u'llah says makes sense to you, then there's probably something inside of you that's saying, I need to check this out. And that's what we're asking you to do. Check it out. Find out who Baha'u'llah is. Find out if what he says is true.